I just wanted to do a quick video showing what kind of my problem is with weapon handling in ArmA and ways that I think it can be improved to make it a little more realistic and to give the players a little more freedom and better control, because, you know, ArmA is really great with the big stuff, but it's kind of the little details where it kind of misses out, especially with weapon handling. It's always been kind of finicky. Whether, in ArmA 2 it had a lot of issues with, just being kind of jerky and weird, and then ArmA 3 has a lot of acceleration issues and all that. And one of the things that I always really liked in concept was, if you're in the game and you aim down the sights, and then you use your freelook key, which would normally allow you to move your head independent of the rest of your body and your weapon, it allows you to move your weapon while keeping a sight picture around like this, which is really useful because it means that you can move while looking at, off to your left or your right. The problem with this is, well, it restricts you too much, and it acts as if you're using your gun like this, basically, where I can turn it this much and I can turn it this much. The problem is in reality, it's realistic for about left. If I look left, I can look further if I really want to, but I have to really stretch. I'm not going to be running around like that, but I could easily keep a pretty good pace while doing, about this, and stay comfortable and be able to keep a good sight picture and continue to handle my weapon properly. But when I look to my left, because I have my weapon in my right shoulder, I can turn a lot further. In fact, it's very comfortable for me to look basically almost 90 degrees to my left and maintain a sight picture and continue to move as well. That's really useful for when I'm moving around, because it means that if there's enemies on my left flank, I can engage them while moving a lot faster than if they're on my right flank. And it's something you can keep in mind, and as well as, another thing that's been suggested is the ability to switch sides with your weapon, so that you can, there's not really much point to it right now. It's just kind of an aesthetic, I suppose, for some people. But if this kind of system were implemented, where that free look aiming was actually allowing you to look as far to the left or to the right as would be realistic based on which shoulder your rifle is in, I think that would really enhance the infantry controls for ArmA, because it allows you to do fire movements a lot better than, right now you kind of have to like strafe left and right, or you can kind of do it again, but it's very limited. Like, even to the left, it's very, very limited. And it feels like I'm just kind of wiggling my weapon back and forth. And the same issue comes with, I really don't like I do and I don't like the dead zone aiming. The thing I don't like about the dead zone aiming is it feels like I'm doing this, which, you can take 5 seconds and read through like a rifle marksmanship manual, and you'll see that you're not supposed to do this with your weapon. You're supposed to be looking where your weapon is pointed. You're supposed to know where your weapon is pointed and keep your weapon pointed wherever you're looking. And if you're not pointing your weapon where you're looking, your weapon should be down. And when your weapon is down, the last thing you want to have to do is use the dead zone aiming, because it feels terrible. If you have a crosshair, it feels slightly better because you kind of have that reference point, but even then it just feels unnatural to have to move to the edge and then start turning. And there's a whole host of issues with dead zone that other people have kind of talked about, but I think having better control of kind of different modes of using your weapon. For general purposes, the standard fare of kind of your usual first-person shooter controls are fine. Again, like I said, you're taught to keep your weapon pointed where you're looking. Even if you keep it down low, you still keep it, pointed in the general direction that you're looking, for a number of reasons. For one, if you're looking over here, you got your weapon pointing over here, you slip and pull the trigger, you could shoot a friend or a civilian or, a house or whatever else, something that you're not intending to shoot. Another thing is if you see an enemy over here and your weapon's pointed over here, you have to bring it over here, and that could be too much time, especially in a close quarters kind of situation. So I think the dead zone stuff is cool, and I know there's a lot of people who like it, but I think there are better options out there that can give that dead zone kind of feel of being able to have free aim that's somewhat independent of where you're looking, and keeping in mind something that ArmA's been very unique in that they use the body and they kind of simulate it to kind of go into the to affect how the character controls and affect how handling works. For example, when you're in this kind of in the freelook aim mode in ArmA, it gives kind of a latency to the controls and weapon feels heavy or whatever. That kind of thing is kind of one of the cool things about infantry combat in ArmA, and I think that if we had more options available to us as to how we're doing things, being able to switch shoulders would be very useful again for when you're moving and firing at the same time. If I've got targets on one side or the other, I need to be able to switch over quickly. If I need to be able to get up around cover, and I think actually now the way that switching leaning to the left or leaning to the right, it actually does switch shoulder, or at least it certainly appears to. It may not completely, but it's something along those lines, and that's really cool. But having independent control over that and having it actually influence the controls and the gameplay would be really useful. Again, being able to, even if it's just a quick walk or a jog, I mean, obviously, you're not going to be able to sprint and hold your weapon up and keep a good sight picture and be accurate with your weapon at that point, but for when you're moving, over small distances or through urban terrain, being able to handle your weapon properly is really important, and it would add a lot to the gameplay, I believe, to have that kind of opportunity. And again, the functionality is there. All it just needs to be tweaked slightly, so based on which shoulder your weapon is in, and that's the only thing that would really require new functionality. And again, I want to say that the way that the kind of adjusting the stance to the left or right works is when you adjust to the left, it will actually switch shoulders. If nothing else, it kind of does. The weapon definitely comes over to the side here, so it does something similar to that. I don't know exactly how it works, but I can't imagine that there's no one at BI that can figure that out and do it so that we have a button that lets us switch between the two shoulders, just for people who feel more comfortable with it, and also because if this idea of having more realistic and kind of anatomically, I guess, correct, I don't know what the word is, kinetically correct or whatever, handling for free aiming like this, I think would be really cool. And again, adding the ability to switch shoulders would add even more to it, because it would allow us to do things like react to being flanked and continue movement. I mean, if I'm running down the road that way, and there's not a whole lot of cover, I don't have any ditches or trees or anything like that, but 20 meters down the road there's a stone wall or whatever, but the enemy's over there. I don't want to have to walk sideways, presenting a much larger profile to the enemy and greatly hindering my ability to move just to shoot over there, when my body is more than capable of doing this. And in fact, this is a fairly natural shooting position, because it gives a smaller profile to your target, and just because of the way, it helps you, it helps you deal with recoil better, because you kind of you're not standing like this, because your feet, are one's behind the other, and it gives you a nice balance of I guess support and stability. So I always thought it was kind of weird to me that I can't look over here and shoot and move this way, because in reality it's absolutely something I'd be able to do. And being able to smoothly transition around corners would be much easier if I was able to continue walking in the same direction and peek out like that. And I mean, that's how you're taught to come out around corners, is to roll out, not just because it's just not realistic. Because for one, it requires you to get away from the wall, and you want to be closer to the wall just because it provides cover. The further out you are, the greater the area is. I mean, from here to here, this opens up a lot of space. On top of that, will all provide support for when you're firing. So being able to control your weapon more accurately, I think, would be very useful in infantry combat.